Join me in the blanket fort as we venture into the realm of the unknown. This is Painted Hank. Welcome to the Painted Hank Halloween episode. My name is Adri Hayes, and I'm going to be your host for today. Actually, I'm your host all the time. But we're going to kick off the Halloween season with some local haunts. And we're going to be talking about the ghost of Kennesaw, Georgia. And there are a lot of ghost stories, but I'm going to focus on two areas. So, located 31 miles outside of Atlanta, sits the town of Kennesaw, Georgia. And in that town is an area, or a mountain, called Kennesaw Mountain. So what's interesting is that the original translation, so the not anglicized version, was Kennesaw, which is Cherokee. Supposedly that's Cherokee for cemetery or burial ground, which is very interesting considering what we're about to talk about today. So Kennesaw is going to see some serious Civil War action starting on June 19th of 1864. So you have Hooker. Hi, editing me. So I made a mistake on the identity of the generals who fought in that battle at Kennesaw. So it was Union General Joseph Hooker who was commanding one of the corps of Sherman's army. So that was the mistake that I made. So yeah. Sorry about that. And they're going to come together and they're going to battle. Now, 1,000 of the Confederates would die in the conflict, in this battle, while 3,000 would die. It was over 1,000, and then 3,000 would die on the Union side. So that's 5,000, because it's over 1,000 soldiers passing away in this very brutal conflict. Now, because of that, we have some ghosts. So we're going to start actually with just some little small things. So people have reported up on the mountain seeing soldiers in Civil War dress. And initially they think that, it's a typical, maybe there's a reenactment going on somewhere. And there's not. Other people or other stories involve soldiers on horseback pulling up to them. There's actually one story where this happened to this man and his son at night, no doubt, which is absolutely terrifying. And the guy said he literally just floored it and got up out of there. And I think he actually said that this soldier chased them until it just disappeared. Because I'm sure in the soldier's defense, he didn't know what the hell that was. A horseless carriage? Witchcraft. I'm pretty sure he was like, I gotta shoot it. Which is terrifying if a ghost is trying to shoot at you. Other stories and other people have smelled blood and gunpowder in the air, or they hear Civil War a battle going on. And there's no reenactment, there's nothing. First of all, you're not going to smell blood during the reenactment. Let's just take that out. But to hear gunpowder or disembodied voice, to hear gunpowder, to hear guns or smell gunpowder, and that that's not a thing, is terrifying. Also, people hear the battle cries of these soldiers, these ghostly soldiers, which if you've ever heard a battle cry, I've only heard them in reenactments, and it chills you, which I think it's supposed to do. It's supposed to freak you out, but it's even scarier when you know that this is coming from a long dead soldier. But what's even more terrifying is the houses around Kennesaw Mountain have witnessed paranormal activities. People living in these houses in these subdivisions, and there are a lot of subdivisions. Side note, very beautiful place to live, Kennesaw. They have witnessed these paranormal experiences. So take, for example, the Tatums. So they were this couple who had moved into this area called, or this subdivision called Kolb Creek Court. So Kolb Creek was named for the Kolb family who owned a farm. And the farm was originally on the land that this subdivision was built on. So the Kolbs actually built this house as they, built this house in the subdivision as a retirement home. So they were just gonna, live there and enjoy the rest of their life. And they were there for a year before things started to happen. And it makes me wonder, like, what was the change for these activities to start happening? But either way, things start happening. So the first story involves both the husband and wife, but it was from Mrs. Tatum's view. So Mrs. Tatum said that one night she woke up about 2:30 a.m. to go to the bathroom, and she saw her husband ahead of her, and she thought, oh, he must have to go to the bathroom too. So she called to him and asked him, hey, are you all right? Or, what have you. And he did not answer. And so she just didn't think nothing of it, continued to the bathroom, did what she needed to do, and she came back to bed. And she looks over, and her husband is in the bed, like, with her. And she's like, okay, wait a minute. And so she asked him, hey, did you go to the bathroom? And he said no. And so he immediately gets up, grabs his gun, because he thinks there's an intruder in the house and that they're unsafe. Meanwhile, Mrs. Cole, I keep saying Mrs. Cole, Mrs. Tatum is sitting there, and she starts to, think back on the event, and she realizes, A, she did not hear footsteps from this person, and also this person was wearing what looked like a hat and a coat, but not like a hat and a coat of modern times. He was wearing Civil War attire. So that freaks her out. So that's the first experience. And by the way, husband searched all over the house, did not find anything. The second story involved Mrs. Tatum being touched on the shoulder. And she said this was actually a frequent occurrence. So she would be at home by herself and would feel someone tap her on the shoulder. And she would look around and nobody would be there. And initially she thought, maybe I'm just feeling things. But then she begins to think back on what happened with that bathroom incident. And she's like, okay, like this has got to be a ghost. One of the scariest parts, that bathroom situation is pretty scary, but the scariest thing that I read involving this case involved, once again, Mrs. Tatum. So this goes really hard for Mrs. Tatum. I don't know why. Maybe he reminded her of somebody. But she said she was sitting in bed reading a book, and her husband had a dish filled with coins on his dresser. And she said that she witnessed these coins falling from mid-air, as though somebody was like dropping coins into a, and back into the coin dish. Like really kind of taunting and playing with her. And that freaked her out. Now they would go and talk to neighbors about these situations, these different ghostly encounters or paranormal activity before they moved away, because they actually said the house didn't feel like it theirs anymore. And I'll actually have another little story involving Mrs. Tatum because she spent the most time at the house. But they would go back and speak with people that were living in the subdivision with them, and they were having paranormal experiences as well. And the reason is not actually, it's not the Kolb family. It's not their fault. What happened was there was a skirmish. So a little altercation off of the battle that started on June 19th. at Kennesaw Mountain. And it had happened where that subdivision sits, really today. And back, of course, back then, it was brand new. This is in the 1980s. And so they all surmised, everyone living there surmised that this was related to the Battle of Kennesaw Mountain. And people started talking about how they'd seen, they would get up and see a Civil War soldier just chilling in their house pretty much, and then it would disappear. People saw, once again, a man on horseback riding down the middle of the street. And they're like, okay, reenactment? No, it was actually a ghost. And I would argue to say there are still ghosts, hanging out in what is now Cold Creek Court. And see, that reminds me. Okay, so, wait, I forgot to tell y'all. So, other than probably, them not feeling comfortable in the house, one room really freaked out Mrs. Tatum, and she said it was their guest room. And it always felt, she said it just didn't feel like she was welcome in there. And what I'm thinking is, initially I thought that it had to do with the Cole family, but the house, their old house, is still there. It's just been fixed up. It's farther off. But maybe something happened in that exact area where that guest room sits. That, other than, of course, people dying. But eventually they moved out of that house. And the new owners have not reported anything. Maybe they just want to kind of keep that under wraps. Because I don't think that would have stopped, honestly. But now let's talk about Fox 5 Atlanta. Yes, my people from Atlanta, Fox freaking 5. They have a ghost. And of course, because this is Atlanta, it is a Civil War ghost. So, this story, actually, I heard this. So, this is secondhand. I heard this watching the news way back. I think that was 2016 or before that. And it was Halloween, so, they wanted to do something fun. And so they decided, let's talk about how our station is haunted. And I'm thinking it's going to be like a veteran news reporter or something like that. No, ma'am, no. It is, and if you hear that, those are gunshots. Somebody across the field is going ham. How fitting for this. Anyways, so the first story that I heard involved, it was a producer. And you gotta think about it. These news reporters and this staff, they have to come in at like 3-4 in the morning. So it's like a wrong place, wrong time situation. So she said she had gotten to work and she saw a man standing in the parking lot. And she thought, oh, this is a vagrant. So she kind of locked her door and I think she was getting ready to call the police or something. And the man just disappeared before her eyes. And so she was like, okay. So she called her friend. And she is freaking out. Like, she was like, what is that? And her friend's like, guess what? You saw a ghost. Staff who are basically talent. The news people themselves have either felt or seen this spirit. And they'll try to kind of debunk it with the fact that the way that one of the meteorologists there, Paul Milliken, said is like, well, yeah, think about it. News stations are generally creepy. There's all these machines and, dark spaces. But I don't know, man. Because the reason I say I don't know is because, they ended up finding out, and I think there's a plaque on the land that states that before it was Fox 5, before it was a mansion, before it was all of that, it was a Civil War encampment. And the story, or my idea rather, and I'm pretty sure generally the story is that this soldier is from this encampment And either this is a residual haunting or a stone tape theory where he is just showing up, just, you know, like almost on a loop as far as stone tape. When I read that, I was like, glad I got my ass out of communications, because I couldn't take that. But yeah, yeah, so we're going to end it here with I call this episode 0 of the Halloween special. On the next episode, let me whip over to my calendar real quick. Next episode, we're going to be talking about the dark and why humans are afraid of it. And also, I will be premiering part 2 or part 3, one of those parts of my story, A Bomb Ass Pirate story. And there's going to be a bit of a Halloween twist in there. So first of all, I hope you enjoyed the first one, and I hope you enjoyed this next one, and I hope you enjoyed this video. So please comment, like, and subscribe. Share if you want to. I also have a TikTok, and you can check me out at HaintBlueRe if you're interested in just smaller, more condensed ghost stories. I'm gonna try to do a lot of videos where I talk versus read versus have text on the screen, because I don't think people like that. So I will see you on the next episode of Painted Haint. Bye.